What's going on, everybody? Already here for another Life of Dad show. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying your lunch break with us or breakfast, depending on where you are in the world, or maybe having dinner, maybe a cocktail. I don't know. But this is where John and I have our lunch break. We like to chill and talk about fatherhood. And of course, I got my main man, my co host, John Finkel. What's up, sir?
I like the idea of people having cocktails. I know there's different times, obviously, all over the world, so I'm not being stupid, but I like the idea that somewhere it's like exactly 7 p.m. and they're like, I'm going to sit down. And we know one guy's going to have Bacardi, or, our friend's going to have Bacardi every time with us during the day, but I'd like people sitting there having like a whiskey sour, like just tuning in to you and I chatting.
No doubt, no doubt. Today, thanks always for joining us. Let us know where you're watching from all over the world. Talk about we were going to be talking about our favorite holiday gifts of all time, whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus for the rest of us. After you listen about your air of grievances and you got your presents, what was your favorite as a kid? And maybe now, was there something that you got from either your kids? I got almost like a tear jerker. Well, probably for me, but anyways, I'm going to talk about that. But before we get into that, we want to say thanks again for the good folks over at Sabre. They are hooking us up with a sponsorship today. Of course, they have great things like the pepper gel and my personal favorite, the personal alarm. John, you like it as well, I take it, right?
Yeah, I like it because I know that when I'm not with my wife or my kids and they're together and something might happen, I like that they have a little bit of, a little way to protect themselves. We went outside. They have a practice one that one of the sprays comes with, so we practiced our target practice. So I had them, aim up and get them going there, which is awesome for, with Sabre, like thinks ahead that you're not just going to be the first time you use it shouldn't be the first time you need it. So I really think it's smart that they have the practice spray where you're outside and you're like, okay, I just held up like an old broomstick and I was like, that's somebody who might be wanting to do you harm, and they sprayed it. So now hopefully they never need it. But if they do, the peace of mind is they know how to get it and spray it after. So that's pretty cool. And, when you're not there, they have something to help them protect themselves. And the alarm is really cool too. So I agree. It's, we talk, about it this time of year, but also really it's any time when you're not able to physically protect your wife and kids. Not that they can't protect themselves, but this is a great way to have kind of a little bit of a backup for you.
Yeah, man. Always good to have a backup, and we love the folks over at Sabre. And they're going to show you, us, Life of Dad, and Sabre, we're going to show you guys some love. If you go to saberred.com/Life of Dad show and use the code Life of Dad show, you get 20% off your order. Great stocking stuffers, great things around the holidays to pick up for the ones you love. Thanks again to Sabre. All right, we got a lot of people checking this out. This is great.
Good to see you, buddy.
We've got Jake saying Remington BB gun. Did you shoot your eye out? Did you? Hopefully you didn't. This wasn't a Christmas gift. I think it was maybe it was a Christmas gift for my sister, but she got the Nintendo, the NES, the 8-bit system. And of course, like being a little brother, I tagged. It was always like Luigi or playing Duck Hunt. But David says, I remember my parents bought us the Nintendo. My twin and I were screaming. This is old school right here. Dennis says, Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Good stuff, yeah.
Jason says, I got a 250R three-wheeler when I was 14.
That's good.
And it says, what up? It's good to see y'all. Same here. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at this, man. Kevin weighing in from the trip to Disneyland.
That's like off the top rope. See, so here's the thing that's a good way to start. So did you like the things that you got that were a bit of delayed gratification? Like if you got a trip, we didn't have a Disneyland trip, but we're going to do this, or I got us tickets to WWF. Like when I was a kid, I remember we got tickets to see them come in. Yeah,
that's off the ropes right there, right?
There was something about it was awesome, and you kind of jumped up, especially when you were a kid. But then it was like it's a month from now, and you know what I mean? And that's still great. And looking back, the trip is amazing.
Remember, patience there, little John. That's
right. I agree. But that moment, you're just like, this is so great, but what do I get to play with right now? Yeah. You're kind of like a little brat about it. Random trampoline, to me, that's my all-time. I mean, it's like the one day.
Right?
What's that?
Talk about coming off the top rope, right?
Yeah. Well, I remember you did a trampoline last year or something. For me, for some reason, everyone I know who's gotten trampolines, it's like the greatest 48-hour gift, and then kids forget about it.
Thankfully, we had our kids in my neighborhood. They loved it, so I loved it. Josh saying from St. Elmo, Illinois, favorite was the archery bow, which was hidden in a closet. Every room in the house had a box the size of a bow and was full of Christmas bows except for one box. LOL.
Yeah, I like that stuff. Like, I think for me, what Sean Long's saying, the NES, like, I have my list of top 5, but like since about 15 people are already weighing in, like the number one gift I remember getting absolutely geeked up about as a kid was the NES that first came. That was like, I had Atari, I had Intellivision, I had ColecoVision, I had all the little throwaway ones that everybody had, but NES, which came with Mario, was an absolute game changer, and like you just couldn't wait to get it. You couldn't wait to open it. It was brand new. You kind of knew, because back then TV. I don't know. I didn't. We had like 2 TVs in the house, so like you had to wait for like your parents to let you put it on the family room TV. It wasn't like I had a TV in my room, or now where there's screens everywhere and TVs are $100 at Walmart. Like TVs were a big deal. The time to play it was a big deal. Hooking it up was always that thing. Like, does my dad know how to hook this thing up? Like, is it this thing? Remember, it was the input would have to be
what cable do you need? What?
3. Remember the yellow and the white and the red? They had to go in the right audio visual ones. And like, once you got it up and you saw like, you were like, I'm cool. I'm automatically cool. I'm one of the kids who has Mario. So that's just, it's going to be hard to top that for me as a number one, but I like a lot of these ones that we're seeing right now.
Nice. Yeah, Barbara Wayne, I got a motorbike for Christmas one year. I can't get rid of it. Must be 20 years old. My kids still ride it. That's awesome, handing that down from generation to generation. And it spends more time fixing it over and over again. Well, yeah. Twofold, right? You're passing something down that you loved, and then now you're teaching them how to fix things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I mean, those gifts are good. I don't have anything that I've passed down besides like, what Logan's saying, like, I don't have stuffed animals. My wife's given a few of her stuffed animals that she kept all throughout the years to our kids. I do have, and I won't run upstairs and get it, but I have a Mad Balls. What's that?
No, just go ahead.
I have remember Mad Balls?
Oh yeah, yes.
So you sent me a bunch of them last year, so you do remember. So I have the Mad Ball, like the football called Touchdown Terror.
Yes.
That I've had forever that I gave to my son as a present. He loves that thing, even though if you catch it, it's like being hit with a 2x4. But that's probably one of the few things I've kept. And I have starting lineup figures that'll slowly start trickling out as he gets more into sports.
Like a Magic Johnson, Larry Bird one?
Magic Johnson, Larry Bird is actually on his dresser, dude. Like right now, it's on his nightstand. I mean,
I got it. Like now that we're in our new home. My office has gotten a little bit bigger, and like I have a thing dedicated. I should probably post it up on Twitter or Instagram, but I'm looking at it right now. It's like my sports section, and it's got some autograph stuff from like 49ers and some other people, but it's got a bunch of starting lineups. Some are in the case and some aren't.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. But what I was laughing at is you're like, I want to go upstairs. I feel like, again, I feel like the past few episodes that we've been doing, we've been like spawning new ideas. I want to do this. Like I want to do a relay where we talk about something, and if we have it somewhere in the house, like, toys and stuff like that, because I have like some stuff in the attic that someone was talking about that I want to go get, but I know it's buried and I can't. By the time I get done, the show would be over. But that's going to be another new episode where we just John and Art run during the episode.
Well, that's a Jimmy Kimmel bit. They used to do that. They used to do that scavenger hunt where like he would have 2 people online. And then they would say to him, they'd say, okay, who the first person to get, and they would pick a random thing in their house, and they put first person to come back if they would win. So we can steal the bit since my brother works over there, and just tell him we're going to take it for the Life of Dad show, and we can have people type in their favorite thing for us to go try to grab. I have right up to my right, like the Mean Joe Green starting lineup. I have a great Karl Malone one somewhere that's unopened too. It looks nothing like him, but I have it.
Cole, this is what I wanted to get. The He-Man Castle 1985 Rock. Yeah, I got Snake Mountain and Castle Grayskull. I even got like the Horde pit, but it's all upstairs. These, when I went back in like September of this year, I just shipped all of that stuff from my parents' house because like we're trying to downsize his house. So my mom passed, and I'm like, I just want all this stuff. So I just shipped out boxes and boxes.
Did you ever? So I remember. So like there was a couple of things at least growing up that like were big. With obviously the NES, Super Nintendo were huge. The other thing that, like, I think for me anyway, that you wanted to have, at least that I wanted to have, I knew you were going to grab that. I knew you were going to get the Niners helmet.
Michael,
Maybe we'll do a show. I have a Patriots helmet. Maybe we'll do a Patriots Niners helmet show one day. I'll tell you what, we'll do it when our teams play in the Super Bowl. Well, at least when mine does, and then you can wear
it. Throat shade.
But like, when you guys did stuff, like when you were getting presents as a kid, obviously the big ones were clearly like the NES, Super NES, like Game Boy when that came out. Like, did your parents have it set up where, like, what was the number of games you got? Because like with Hanukkah growing up, it was like really weird. So I remember, my parents, my mom, they didn't know this stuff. My dad actually worked for Toys R Us, so he knew all this stuff. My mom did all the wrapping, and I remember one year she gave us, we had to like do an audible because she gave us like the Nintendo on night 1, and then wrapped the games for like night 3. And my brother and I were like, basically our little 8-year-old version of like, what the hell? Like, what are we supposed to do with this? And we were talking to her, and finally we convinced her, like, there's nothing we can do. We're just going to stare at this. And she's like, okay, well, we moved like the presents up to open up we got a cartridge or whatever. But I remember it was like when Zelda came out, I'd get the Nintendo, or like you'd get the new thing. And then it'd be like, all right, so night 7 is Zelda. Like, what are we doing here? We just sit around and wait. Like, just give me the games.
Zelda was awesome because it was that gold. It was that gold case, It's like,
oh my god, dude! The presentation Nintendo did for the Zelda was amazing.
No, for me, because like you celebrated Hanukkah, I celebrated Christmas, and like for me, like my parents would always save like open that one last, or open the one from Santa last, or open this one with that one, but you have to open it last. One of my favorite things of all time, and it's upstairs. I gotta bring it down. Was the Ewok Village from Return of the Jedi. I got that thing, and that thing was awesome. And then I remember a few years down the road, as I got older, when that Kevin Costner movie, the Robin Hood movie came out, they took, and it's funny too because they took that, I guess, model and made it a little bit different, but it was the same thing as the Ewok Village. I'm like, that's not cool.
yeah, they had a lot of those. Where like, especially the any of the action figures that were of people. Like I remember. When I used to love, remember those bigger WWF like wrestling figures that you could get, and then you get the Royal Rumble ring that came with it, and like those were I had everybody, a Junkyard Dog, and I know we've done a WWE show, we'll do another one soon, but like I had all those, and I would ask for specific people and like their stuff that they would have, and that was always the problem of like. You'd want to go all in on stuff. So you either wanted like the Nintendo and 2 or 3 games, you weren't going to get everything, but you also wanted like actual play toys to have, like those, or G.I. Joes. I remember I wanted the big G.I. Joe, whatever it was, Snake Eyes lair or whatever it was. Like,
what was that? I wasn't into G.I. Joe, but did you ever get that helicarrier?
I didn't get the helicarrier, but I remember the helicarrier. Well, that was the other thing too, is like, you'd see these presents, like, especially back then when you're watching Saturday morning cartoons. Yeah, that's a little older, but yeah, that's what I was going to say. So, like, it seemed like there's a divide between, like, 12 and under, and then 12 and over was, like, you wanted the starter jacket, you wanted the kind of cool clothes that maybe the girls might like, or, like, a new football or basketball or tickets to a basketball game and all that kind of stuff.
Like this right here, Johnny Eagle Elephant Gun. Never heard it, but it said shot plastic bullets and made a ricochet sound.
Awesome. Fairly dangerous, but I like it. I like any BB gun or anything like that.
Nice.
Oh, when you were a kid, like, did you ever get instinct? I was gonna say, did you ever get like clothes for a night where you were just like completely disappointed, or like you're under the tree and you'd be like, this is amazing, and then you'd open 3 things in a row and it was like t-shirts and socks and all that kind of stuff that you needed?
Socks and I don't think we ever got underwear, but if you got socks, you're like, what is this? Like, but the clothes that I got was awesome because I remember, I think when we were growing up, remember like the caricatures of the sports figures, like that was huge. Like it was on a sweatshirt or like a t-shirt. I remember my parents got me a Bo Jackson. It was a white sweatshirt with him in a Raiders uniform, like big head, small body, caricature type of thing.
Yeah, those shirts were amazing. And
then my mom personalized it by saying in the back with felt letters, Bo Nose.
Right. There you go.
So I was freaking out. Like, I don't know how old I was, but then they also got me a a hit and run T-shirt from Nike, where it was like you saw it was like hit.
Yeah, I remember that.
Run, and I was like, this is amazing. And my parents are like relieved that like not relieved, but they're like, oh, he likes getting clothes.
Do you remember this was such like a, I don't know if it was definitely a status thing, but it was in like 7th, 8th, 9th grade where like, and you were in New England, so you knew, like, do you remember like the Champion sweatshirts that were really cool, but like if you had the C, it was cooler than if it was written out Champion for some reason. And then, so like I remember I wanted, that was what, like, for whatever reason, those were super cool. Those and like Umbro's shorts for a little while or whatever. And I remember getting the sweatshirt from Champion and it had it written out, and like being a little brat that I was, like, it's just supposed to have the C. And my mom had no idea. She was like, you wrote Champion sweatshirt. Like, I don't know what you wanted. And I remember like looking back, like how furious I'd be if my kid asked for something like that and I wanted it written out a certain way, or like you're, as a parent, you don't care. You're like, I got you the thing you thought you wanted. But I remember being upset over the dumbest little stuff like that, clothes wise, where I'd be like, I said like I used to want a Georgia Tech like game hat. Remember those? It was like GT or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wanted one, but she didn't get me the one that had like the GT with like the lines. It was just like the yellow picture, like just the yellow jacket, like really big on the bill of the hat. And I was like, that's not the Georgia Tech hat. And it was like, I was so specific about what I needed. Like, what a little shit.
No, we've been there. I remember my dad and I and my one of my sisters, we would go out to the mall the next day. Like if there was shirts that were like too small or we really didn't like, or it was like a team that like maybe an aunt or uncle got us, we're like, I'm not really a Jets fan, but they just got me a Jets like shirt. So we would go.
That's a whole category. The completely oblivious gifts that like random relatives would get you. Yeah, those are always. I remember one time I got from, I don't remember who it was from, and there was no one less interested in stuff than me. So I'm sure there's people listening who would love it. But I got one of those like starter ant farms, and it was like, if you know John at all, there is nothing he cares about less than these like terrarium, ant farm. Like I had no interest. Still to this day, have no interest. And I remember it was from like Aunt whoever from wherever, and I was like, just. What am I supposed to do? It was like Wayne's World, like an ant farm. Like, I don't even like ants. What am I supposed to do with a whole farm that would necessitate like an entire colony of ants in my room? Like, no, thank you.
And if it breaks, guess what? They're hanging out in your room. Yeah. You mentioned Wayne's World. Wasn't that the whole thing? Like, hey, we're in Delaware.
Yeah,
it's in Delaware. Yeah.
It's like when he goes, "You gave me a gun rack." It's like, I don't even own a gun, any gun that would necessitate an entire rack.
Cole goes, we're getting my 5-year-old an NES Mini, also for me and my wife. Surprise. Nice. Old school right here. Ashley's saying Atari.
That's a good one that Ken just said. Is anyone out there getting presents for their kids that they're very secretly like hoping and looking forward to using by themselves or with their kids or when their kids are asleep?
Would you see that?
What's that?
No, would you see that? I didn't see that yet.
Oh, somebody wrote. They said, I think Cole said, my wife and I are going to. We got him an NES system.
Oh yeah, that thing. Yeah.
That's the thing that I think like my kids have. We don't have any gaming system in our house at all. We have nothing. Like they say, this is my daughter's 7.5, not interested whatsoever. My son has been asking at 5, and I know once we open that box, like he will never. We'll have to fight every time to have him do anything else. He's very tech savvy, very into playing the games, and so we're avoiding it. But at some point, we'll get it. And the minute he does, it's he and I playing like FIFA and NHL and Street Fighter and like all the games I'd wanted to play for 25 years.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? So there's So once he hits that bug, it's gonna be like you'll be in like video game heaven. I love it. Where was something? Cole still has the castle. I'm very proud of you for having that. And then Rand says, my mom did this thing where she would hide clues in the house that led us to the biggest gift. It was awesome. No idea how she set it up with my brother and I knowing about it. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is interesting. Like, so there's different things. So for Christmas, obviously all the presents are sitting under the tree, and I help go to my friend's house for Christmas morning and stuff, and you're studying the shapes and sizes, and you kind of knew what like an old Nintendo cartridge game looked like or what certain things looked like. Hanukkah has the same thing where they'd be laid out kind of by night, so you kind of tried to guess like what night was what. But there was also the idea of like I knew I had friends with like parents who would really try to screw with you, and they'd put like one Nintendo game in a big shoebox, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That was always looking back on it now as a parent, like good for you. Like don't let the kid know that you know that's a Nintendo game. Fool them completely so that they're like shaking it. They're like, oh, a box of socks or you know, a pair of boots that I don't need, and then it's actually the toy you want. I'm a big fan of that. And I actually this year wrapping our presents and stuff didn't do that, and I'm mad at myself. Maybe
I've done that many a times where it's like I take a box of my Jordans or something like a food processor, whether it's for my wife or my kids, and they're like, huh?
Yeah.
Like just open the box. And then there was times where I had a bigger box, a smaller box inside of a bigger box. So it was like double the fake.
Yeah, there you go. I've always wanted to do the thing, and I've never done it, where it's a humongous box with just a bunch of littler boxes in it. But at the end, there's nothing. Just to get a video of that entire experience.
Oh man! Or what was that thing, the meme that you see around nowadays? Like, hey, parents, your kids started acting up. Make sure you wrap a couple of empty presents, just throw them into the fireplace, and be like, "Want to act up even more?"
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like the only time, I guess this is one of the only. If you're talking about parent leverage of Hanukkah versus Christmas, I think presentation-wise, Christmas gets the nod for all the excitement at one time and all that kind of stuff, and Hanukkah kind of lays it out. But Christmas morning comes like the 2 or 3 days before Christmas, like you're not using it as a carrot to get your kids to behave. Like we're not going to have Christmas if you guys don't do this or whatever it is. But because Hanukkah is kind of like a slow bleed, like night 3 or the morning of night 4, if your kids are not behaving, it's like, you know, we're just not going to do it tonight. And they just fall in line like immediately.
Okay, we're sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Christmas, you know you're never going to actually cancel Christmas, so like you can't really use it. But Hanukkah, you have nights where you're like, we're just not going to do it tonight. We'll do 2 tomorrow night, or you do what you just said. You take a present and go, you know what? I'm just going to return this.
Yeah.
And you can really torture your kids. So it's good time. Enjoy it.
Leverage.
Yeah.
Brett says 1976 Honda 50cc. Santa dropped it off. I started in the living room that morning as Santa came running down the hallway in his tidy whites to make sure I didn't wreck the living room. That is awesome.
I like it, Brett. That's good. I never got we weren't into that like action equipment or sporting. Like we got like a new glove or something, but I like the bikes and sleds and little ATVs and stuff like that.
Talk about bookends right here from back in the day for Brett, and now he's talking about this as well. Best gift I'm giving myself this year: 50-inch TV in the game room for my girls, so I can watch football without interruptions.
Yeah, well, we were talking about on our last show, like getting your own phone line. I remember that was a present one year for something where it was like a huge deal for us. So yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Oh, just kind of like when we're talking about the video games thing. Chris goes trying to talk your son into something at the store, or your wife is telling you he has no interest in.
Yes. Yeah, that has happened. That has happened to me. I was looking at for my son's birthday. I don't know why I was thinking of trying to maybe nudge him into golf. And they have those really cool putting machines for indoors where like it lays out.
Yeah,
like, you love this thing, man. And he's like, I don't really care. I don't want to do it. And I'm like, dude, it's awesome. It has a 10-foot hole. You can move it back. And my wife's just like, this is all so you can just putt upstairs while they're playing. I was like, of course, that's exactly what this is for. But we didn't get it. So I feel your pain, man. Totally.
Kingbird says, our boy Kingbird says, of course, mine was a Sega Genesis, Sonic the Hedgehog. Last year, it was a Nintendo Switch for my son. Both had the same reactions. Classic.
Were you guys, and Sean probably was, like, in your family or your neighborhood or your friends, like, divided between, there was Nintendo people, there was Sega people, and then there was, like, the top of the mountain, 1 or 2 friends who, for whatever reason, were allowed to have both.
Yeah.
Never had both. I didn't have or play Sega ever. I never wanted to go over a friend's house who had it because they were better on their controllers than I was on my controllers, but there was that 1 or 2 friends who were like, oh, I'll just change the input. I have Sega and Nintendo. And you were like, who is this person? It's like they're living as a king.
So true. No, most of the people on my block had my neighborhood had a Super Nintendo. I had a Sega Genesis just because, again, my favorite video game of all time was Mortal Kombat. Yeah. Super Nintendo was like, we're not doing blood, we're just doing sweat. and
Street
like,
Fighter. Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? So I
There
got
was so many
Super
games that were different.
yeah, and then now as you kind of get older and just with working for Life of Dad and checking out things, we have like a long list of video game systems. So it's like you and your family need to come over here. We'll play, and they'll get the bug, and they're like, all right, we need this, this, and this, and you'll be happy.
Yeah, I want to go. We have nothing, and like I've thought of buying it. Like actually, you the other day, it's really your fault when you got that arcade, the arcade one or whatever it was. Like I was looking at that, and I was looking at we have a upstairs. There's like kind of like a playroom between the kids' rooms. And I was like, I know exactly where this would fit. And then I realized like it's not even for them. Like I would just be playing it. I don't know how you don't right now, as soon as this show is over, just go get like 20 minutes in a Centipede or whatever. Like it's just sitting there.
How do you know I don't do that? How do you know I'm not doing it right now?
Yeah, you might. I have no idea. Like
I got the sound off. Hold on.
Yeah.
I gotta bust up some buildings, but I heard there's a rumor that my favorite game of all time will be coming into that same system.
Which one?
Mortal Kombat.
Oh, dude. See, I remember like when my buddy of mine in LA like started doing really well, and he went out and we got, I think it was a Galaga machine. Oh no, it was Asteroid or Arkanoid. Remember Arkanoid? It was with the roller and the thing.
Yeah.
So we found one online on like eBay or whatever. We drove like all the way out to like, I don't know, Simi Valley or something to pick it up. It was like a 4-hour round trip, and I had the only SUV, so it was in the back of the car. Like we got back, of course, didn't work, and an electrician come to his house. Like 3 days later, we finally got it hooked up, and the whole thing was like it was like $200. It wasn't even that expensive for a stand-up machine. And the beauty of it was like we just sat there with the two of us playing it like we were 12 years old. Just 2-player, hours passing.
Something about playing at an arcade machine just takes you back, and like you feel like you're Ricky Schroeder from Silver Spoons. Like I have an arcade unit in my house. Like how crazy is that, right?
I've worked like I don't know how much the one you have got, but like you can find restored models of like Miss Pac-Man for like $150. It's just plywood and really old electronics.
Yeah. Kelly goes, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, 3 essential toys as a kid.
Yeah.
I still have this case and the C-3PO case from my childhood, and I remember getting like figures. And I don't know about this too, because like tomorrow is St. Nicholas Day. It's like the Saint the feast day for St. Nicholas, and so like a Polish tradition was always like you get a small like gift to open tomorrow in your stocking. We do that with our kids, so I have a couple of things ready to go for tomorrow. So I remember I always get like at the time back in the day, like maybe like a Star Wars figure wrapped up. Like this is awesome.
yeah. That I mean, the figurines. My kids play with them now. Now they're all the Marvel superheroes, and that's it. And so that's all my son. This year is different. He didn't really ask for any of those. Now it's like PJ Masks and all those kind of things. But like. Last year was like if we could have gotten him every day just a different Avenger doll, he would have been the happiest guy ever.
We're gonna leave out of this our boy Kingbird. And this is so true. Also, the 6-button controller for Sega. Yeah. It was over. You were the coolest kid, no doubt. I remember I got a 6-button controller, and I still had the regular 3-button controller. And if you had that for Mortal Kombat 2, you would just beast everybody. Just because you had like the high kick, you can differentiate between high kick and low kick, high punch, low punch, all that stuff. You didn't need to worry about that. It's like, wait a minute, how do I do a high punch? By the time you like figure it out, you're already dead.
The Nintendo version of that was the Power Glove. Remember that? It looked like Thanos' glove now, and like, but like you go over someone's house and maybe it was the first time you were over their house, or like your buddy got it, and you walk into their room or family room wherever they had all their Nintendo stuff, and you see the glove and you're like, oh my god, can I use the glove from Mike Tyson's Punch Out? It's the greatest thing of all time.
It pisses me off on that 70s show when they use the new Star Wars figures and try to pull them off the old ones. Anybody else? Dude, it's hitting wheelhouse. I love this. McFly, what's McFly have to say? Those Hot Wheel tracks, I have those all throughout the house. That is legit, right? And you'd always start like from the couch or the table.
And your bed, yeah.
Yes.
And all it took, the frustrating part of that was like, you didn't really understand the laws of physics a little bit. So like you'd have these super steep ones, and it would just keep like shooting off the side of the track because it would roll too much. And you didn't realize that if you just had a little less of an incline, it would actually go a whole lot farther. So your mindset, at least mine, was like, this has to go higher.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Awesome. Everybody, again, thanks for always checking out the show. We love it. We'll be on next week on Monday. You can check us out. And as always, thanks to our good friends over at Sabre.
Yes.
Go to saberred.com/Life of Dad Show and also use the code Life of Dad Show. Get 20% off. You guys have a great rest of the week. And anything else you want to add, John?
No, as always, check out our Life of Dad podcast. Go to the lifeofdad.com website. Subscribe to Life of Dad Show. We have a very cool newsletter that we put out where every Tuesday our new podcast comes up. So I think it's something you'll like. This week we had baseball royalty in Felipe Alou, which was probably like, if you're listening and you're somewhat of a baseball fan or even the fan of the era we're talking about, where he coached the Expos and the Giants, like we kind of geeked out a little bit in the interview and probably could have talked for a few hours. So head over to Life of Dad, listen to our Felipe Alou baseball interview. And then, subscribe. Rand, thank you. We think you guys are great as well. We have some really new, exciting stuff, too. I'm going to hint maybe some new news, some cool stuff we have in our new lineup within the next week and a half. We'll be able to tell you guys that I'm excited about. I know Art's excited about, and really expanding the LOD universe, kind of like the Marvel universe. This is the LOD Marvel universe.
Might have some crossover with Iron Man and Cap. That'd be great.
Yeah, Black Panther's coming on next week. That's what I was saying.
Wakanda forever. All right. Thanks again to Sabre for sponsoring the show. Thanks as always for everybody checking out the show. We love you guys. See y'all next week. Peace.